based on my life, talking about friendships, male friendships in a Christian, perspective. But the only difference is it's not the antagonist named Aiden. That's the fictional part.
Okay.
But most of it, it's about the struggle of knowing who or having faith in God, who your friend is. And that's who Peyton was to me. That's who Ari was to me when I met him in college. Mm-hmm. And we're still good friends today as well. And my other friends who my grandpa told me this. He said, my Papa Brooks, he said, if you can have 2 to 3 true friends in this life, that's what matters. And that's how it's in art too, because I like true stories. And I'm writing this love story right now called Old Soul. Oh. And it's inspired from my life, but not in the exact. I'm an old-fashioned guy, as you can tell, or an old soul. And I'm just not introverted like my character Bobby, but like I was Bobby basically. But before I met Ellicate, I was shy. And I know that's normal for guys with the hormones.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Career Education Learning Center podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Rivers. I am thrilled and elated to have Eliza Brooks on our show today. Eliza is a senior at the University of North Georgia, majoring in film, digital media production, and a minor in theater. How you doing today, Eliza?
I'm doing wonderful, Mr. Rivers. Thank you for having me.
Well, Eliza, tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your journey to the University of North Georgia.
Hello, everybody. My name is Eliza C. Brooks, and I grew up around Northeast Georgia, near Dahlonega, Georgia. Very blessed where I'm from. And my dad, he's actually from Enterprise, Alabama. So I got the double fortune of him being from L.A., as he called it, and my mom growing up in Hall County, which is basically Gainesville. And as I was growing up, I transferred to the University of North Georgia 2 or 3 years ago, January 2023. And before that, I was actually a history major because I wanted to be a history teacher, professor. But I realized, with growing up around my grandparents a lot, doing Civil War reenactments and just being a history buff in general, I'm like, well, you know what? Filmmaking is storytelling. And I really prayed to God about it. And I was like, what do I need to do with my life? And so as I prayed to God, I wrote it down too in my journal, and I was trying to figure out what do I need to do in my life. And I realized I am a storyteller. Mm-hmm. And mostly because of my Christian faith growing up here in the deep South in Georgia. But it's like, my mom, she blessed me. She took me to a lot of movies growing up, especially in the movie theaters. And I'm like, why are you taking me to the movies so much? But then I realized, especially after the pandemic, I'm like, take me back. I'm sorry. I acted like a spoiled brat. And here I am now learning how to really write screenplays, do some acting, like in student films and more productions, and even direct, because I took a directing class.
Oh, man, that sounds exciting. And I was telling Eliza, ladies and gentlemen, that earlier I've been looking for a film student and one that's in the video production. My son has a 2-year degree in video production screenwriting. And so I was looking for someone maybe to even talk to him and mentor him some. And I found Mr. Brooks here on LinkedIn, and I'm just elated to have him on our show today. So you went to the movies and everything, but what about in your childhood? Let's say under 10. Did you participate in any elementary school plays or any type of thing like that while you was growing up, when you was a toddler or a little bit older?
So funny thing, I didn't realize I was an artist until like high school. Oh. And I don't know that, because I didn't really think I was a creative person. I mean, I knew I liked to think outside the box, and the Lord just gave me that gift. But like, I doubted myself. But when I got in high school, because I would play like baseball growing up, not middle school, but like, growing up at the YMCA, and did soccer like my sister a little bit, and like played soccer, did martial arts called Hapkido Kwan, did a little bit of golf, and just, I appreciate sports, but I realized it wasn't me fully. But to answer your question, in ninth grade, I told myself, why am I in this art class? I can't draw. And then I looked at what my teacher wanted me to draw. And it was actually, I did it from top to bottom. And next thing I realized, I was doing theater. I had stuff displayed up in the hallway. I drew like an old dog portrait of my deceased dog I had when I was 10 years old. And like, I was just amazed of how like, wow, Lord, you really are blessing me. I guess I am an artist. And so it went from that. I did ninth grade theater. You asked me about my first ever play, African Tales. I played Monkey, like it's a children's play. And my teacher was named Brandon Nonamaker. He's an Episcopalian priest now. And we got to see each other not too long ago because I joined the choir at the University of North Georgia in Gainesville. And that was a good godly thing. I got to see him. And I should have taken chorus. But that was way of me saying, hey, I'm sorry I didn't take chorus like you wanted me to in high school. And I'm here to tell you, and he told me, he said, Elijah, I'm just getting emotional. I'm grateful. And another thing I like to add is besides theater and the arts, I took a broadcasting class by Gina Gailey. She was my teacher, and Gina Gailey is an Italian country artist here in Georgia. So
that's a real rare combination. Italian country artist. Oh man, that is great. And so you're into music also? So not only in the film, but music?
Yes, sir. When I was in high school, my brother-in-law named Kyle Thomas, he just inspired me to play guitar. Now, when it comes to like art, I did sing because I was inspired by my mama. We grew up in church. She would sing like Dolly Parton songs. Like
I love Dolly Parton.
The other day, she was singing "Christmas Without You" with Kenny Rogers, and like I don't know, like there's something about your parents, how they inspire you and how they uplift you and how they want you to do better than they are. And even though my dad's not artistic, he's my motivator in life. So he says, son, I support you in anything you do. I just want to make sure you have a good degree, a good job or career for your life. And he was the football player. But if you were to ask me about my artistic skills, Mr. Rivers, it's more from my mama. And I don't know, I took her inspiration as my choir professor. She said, that's what you call autodidact, where you teach yourself learning through an inspiration of someone. And I've been told I sing good, but I try to be humble about that.
Well, that is, ironically, my mom and dad was teachers. My dad was a music teacher. He was a elementary school music teacher, and he was also the assistant band director at the high school. And so music was in our family. My mom taught piano lessons, especially to the neighborhood kids. So music is really, part of our family. I grew up in the South too, so of course music is there. And so the musical and the arts is there. Now, as far as me and my brothers, we all played musical instruments because we had musical parents. As far as the drama is concerned, theater and everything else, that was my younger brother. He was real good. I did not know he was that good till high school, and he done a couple of plays. And so that side of the family, as far as my mom and dad musical, I did not get. So Elijah, if you ever hear me singing, it's one is an imposter, or I'm getting ready to die or something, because I cannot sing. I can dance very little, sing. I do none of the stereotypes that most African Americans do. It just didn't fall into my blood there. The two hobbies I can do well is eat and sleep. That's the two best things I can do.
Well, I love to eat too, Mr. Rivers. It's good that you brought that up. So while Kyle was teaching me how to play guitar in high school, we had our own Christian band called The Awakening, and I helped him write some songs. We just did it for God mostly. We didn't do it for fame, but we did perform at like a church, like at his church. And besides that, he let me borrow his alto saxophone. Here I was in the White County High School marching band, doing the Doombeck at the pit first, and then trying out the saxophone a little bit. But I was more dedicated to guitar.
And well, ironically, see, you never know, ladies and gentlemen, what you have in common with your guests. I also played the alto saxophone. That was my instrument. You just don't know that. My older brother, as the oldest may know from previous podcasts, played the trombone. The middle brother played the trumpet. I played the saxophone, and my youngest brother played the piano and sung. And so you just never know when I get these super guests on my show what you have in common with. And like you said, music's there. And so God, you was in a band. How was that, man? I mean, any band. I don't care if it's Christian rock band or just any type of band, country music, rap, or just being in a band is fantastic. How was that experience?
Well, actually, I was 15 years old.
That's even better.
Yeah, and I remember telling some girls at the high school, I was like, "Hey, I'm in the band, I'm helping writing some songs." They're like, "Oh, awesome!" But he said, "Don't just do it for the girls. You do it because number one for God." But the only thing I could write about, if you were to ask me what was hard about being a band, is being a songwriter. Mm-hmm. You know, I think about artists like Taylor Swift and how she used her personal life experiences to write her songs, but sometimes they become redundant. I'm not a big Swiftie, but I do like her music. And it's like, I believe, I interviewed someone one time. I think some of the best artists come from personal life experiences, but to fully elaborate, it's like, I don't know. I was with Kyle at his house and Chelsea, my sister, every day. Well, not every day, but like, it was overwhelming at times because we had to get a lot of equipment. He used GarageBand, the app, you know.
I love it.
He bought a drum set, and while he was teaching me how to play guitar, my best friend in high school, and we're not that close anymore, but just because I went to the university and he became a diesel mechanic, but I still love him. He was my best friend in high school, one of my true friends, Peyton Robinson. He invited me to his church. And this was also a period in my life where I was sort of depressed and I needed to get closer to God. And I don't know, he was just the only true friend I had because I was like a standout kind of guy. Just I didn't know where to be in high school because I was this awkward marching band theater and doing the arts and playing this guitar and trying to impress some girls and who had some crushes, but just too shy, like Mr. Darcy off of Pride and Prejudice. But anyway, Peyton and I, we had our own church band at the Restoration Point. It was a Pentecostal church. That's how I was raised. And it was on Wednesdays. So while I was practicing with Kyle and Chelsea with the band, making our own music actually, and we made our own album, I was practicing with Peyton to be a bass player while he would play not the actual drums necessarily, but
Yeah, I got you. But I mean, you're 15 years old, Eliza. Let me just stop you right there. You're 15 years old. You don't have that much life experience, okay? You're a 15-year-old. Every 15-year-old want to impress girls, okay? You're in high school. Your brain's all over the place. You don't know what you want to do. Your hormones all over the place. So don't be hard on yourself. You think I was impressing girls because I played sports? I played sports. I like sports, but did I want to impress the girls? Of course we did. And so that's just being a 15-year-old, and you're trying to find yourself. Hormones going over here. You're trying to fit into the group. That's just part of being growing up and part of life. But for you to even be in a band and bass and play all the instruments, I think that's incredible. I mean, I could barely play one instrument. Here you are playing 2 or 3 instruments with 2 different bands, 2 different things there. So I think it's fantastic, man.
Thank you. I feel like God was telling me something. And as I graduated high school, I moved and I graduated Lumpkin County High School in 2019. And speaking of girls, she wasn't my girlfriend, but I did have a crush on her. We're still friends today. And Ella Kate, it was like God was showing me, hey, here's somebody, because I know you don't really have much female experience. So here's someone you can get to know. And I saw that as a blessing. And I think she tried to sing a little bit, but mostly because of me, she was inspired to take theater more. Because she met me, and it was amazing how God was letting a major athlete hang out with this weird theater kid or just take the class. And I don't know, I try to remember every moment of my life because I actually have a good exceptional memory, episodic or other types, photographic. But when it comes to the art, I just fully embrace because my creator created me, and I want to create like him. And so 2 years later, the following months later, I went to North Georgia Technical College to, do 2.5 years for my Common Core curriculum. And then I transferred to the University of North Georgia in Dahlonega as a history major, like I said earlier. And I just prayed to God and I said, you know what? I'm a storyteller. Like my grandpa and my other grandparents, I need to be doing filmmaking. So,
well, I think that's fantastic. And that's, again, ladies and gentlemen, I should have been a history major. I love history, Elijah. I love history. In fact, when I did my transcript, if I go back to my high school and my college transcript, I made all A's in history. Did not realize that until I had to go for an interview and they needed my transcript when I graduated college. And I was a business major, but I made all A's in history. I should have majored in history. I missed my calling. And so that happens. Like I said before, you're still trying to find yourself. And you're going to change as you go through life. Elijah, you're going to change many times, many professions. Taste, even from food's going to change. So you're evolving. As human beings, we're always evolving. And especially at your age, you're going to be evolving even more. And so I also went to a community college. I went to Central Piedmont Community College here in Charlotte. Got my associate's degree in the University of Pembroke. And so as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot in common, right? Just meeting each other. And so what type of film do you want to do in the future? Do you want to be more of an actor or producer or music producer? What would you like to do in the future at this time?
I want to be an actor, but the reason why I'm getting a film degree is because I don't want to really rely on just that. My dad told me, he said, just like with topics and conversations, mix it up. And I told my mom, I said, well, you took me to the movies a lot growing up, and Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, I was like 4 to almost 5 years old, and following months later, Narnia came out, and I just, that's how good my memory is. I was like 4 years old, and I remember my mom waking me up, look, they're fighting. And knowing that Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor are back with the Ahsoka series, that's a side conversation.
That's a good memory, man. I mean, I can't remember that. I would go see it myself.
Yeah, well, it's just, stories are powerful.
Yes, they are.
And like, I don't know. It's just, I want to be a storyteller. And like, Ella Kate told me that, said, this is your calling, Elijah. Because I would tell her little bit parts of my life, like Forrest Gump, not in a prideful way, but that's how.
No, I mean, you like I said before, you're ever evolving, and surprisingly, you're going to have to learn to do that. I think one of the things that's maybe a negative at times is that we don't learn to brag about ourselves to a degree. But when you go get that job interview, or even when you want somebody to put money into your production company or your film or actor, you're going to have to sell yourself. And that's one thing that took me a while to learn myself, is that I'm going to have to sell myself. Now, although we're told, even as Christians, to be more humble, yes, you got to be humble, but at the same time, you got to sell what you offer to the people that you're trying to sell to, whether it's a film, whether you want to be an actor, whether you want to be a musician, or even a business person. You're going to have to sell yourself like, hey, I'm the best person for this part, or my company, the best company to do this for you. So you're going to have to be a salesman at the same time. They don't tell you that when you're in college. They don't tell you that at church, that you have to sell yourself. And so that's just part of growing up and everything else. So that's just a great memory you have with that. And in relationship with that, I took my sons to the movies a lot too, Elijah. So yes, I took my sons to a movie all the time. And so they're movie buffs too.
And speaking of that too, thank you for sharing, Mr. Rivers. It's like my attention span ain't great, so that's why I'd rather watch movies than read. However, since I love to write, I'll tell you this, writing is an art as well. And my English teacher, Miss Johnson, in my 10th grade class, she inspired me to have my own personal journal. And I started it when I was 16, but I quit when I was 22. Because I realized, since I'm just a transparent person and outgoing, I don't have really much to hide in my life. So I started doing these video journals. And believe it or not, it's a form of therapy, but also to help people as well. And video journals are like the modern form of journal. Yeah,
I know. I'm behind. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, you don't do 2024. I'm talking 1980s when you had to write the journal, like your teacher told you, and you up to date.
Yes, sir. So I try to do a twist with things, and that's what I want to tell you about too. So here's my plan.
Okay.
I grew up watching. So my great grandfather on my mom's side, named William Joe Tench, he was a good man. We would watch Gene Autry, the Lone Ranger, The Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp. And believe it or not, I wrote my first ever screenplay, 6 pages. It was for my writing for media class at UNG. And it's called The Brave Marshal. And it was inspired from being around him a lot, from watching those Westerns. And then in my actual screenwriting class, I wrote this play. I'm going to try to edit some more. It's called Iron Sharpens Iron. Oh. It's based on my life, talking about friendships, male friendships in a Christian, perspective. But the only difference is it's not the antagonist named Aiden. That's the fictional part.
Okay.
But most of it, it's about the struggle of knowing who, or having faith in God, who your friend is. And that's who Peyton was to me. That's who Ari was to me when him in college. And we're still good friends today as well. And my other friends who my grandpa told me this. He said, my Papa Brooks, he said, if you can have 2 to 3 true friends in this life, that's what matters. And that's how it's in art too, because I like true stories. And I'm writing this love story right now called Old Soul. Oh. And it's inspired from my life, but not in the exact. I'm an old-fashioned guy, as you can tell, or an old soul, and I'm just not introverted like my character Bobby, but like I was Bobby basically. But before I met Ellicate, I was shy, and I know that's normal for guys for the hormones, but I like to think of myself as Mr. Darcy. Sometimes I was just that awkward until I just let God my confidence boost. And these stories that I'm writing, believe it or not, they resonate with classic Hollywood. But my teacher said, give it a modern twist. And in order to really influence people, I've thought about making my own production company called Brooks Films, because the Brooks, believe it or not, that's like a brook, like a river, like a small stream, basically. And I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I will. And I want to do directing, because I directed my classic Western scene, and I'll share that with you. And it's on my social media as well.
Well, I tell you what, now that is fantastic how your life and it's continued to evolve. You as a person and all young people, especially the ones that watch this podcast, your life is going to evolve. Even after 50, my life is evolving. I went from being in corporate America, retail really, then corporate America, and then now I'm trying to be an entrepreneur. And so your life is ever evolving, you're ever learning, like your father said, you want to do 2 or 3 things and be more versatile. But I think that what you're doing is great. Do you have any advice for our young people that may want to go into the arts? Let me ask you this first before I start that. And you said it before, and I want to reiterate this. How supportive were your parents with you going into the arts, especially with your dad being like me in the sports and your mom being more of an artsy? How much would that support help you as far as finding your way into the arts?
Well, quite frankly, my dad, he grew up real in the rural country, like in Alabama, like I said. So he's old fashioned himself. He doesn't even have social media, and he grew up. He graduated from the Auburn University with a poultry science degree. And when he met my mom, her grandpa, which is my great grandpa Joe I was telling you about, he found this thing in the newspaper called Cobb. And that's where my dad's been working ever since like 1999. And he doesn't understand what it means to be an artist. But I have traits like my dad. Sometimes I don't aggravate as much as he does, but I'll ask questions like him. And but as far as supporting, he's not like my mom when it comes to it, because he can't relate with it.
Right.
And he's like, what are you going to do with this film degree, son? And I said, Dad, I'm going to get an internship. I will work as long as, because I used to work at Zaxby's, and I worked at Alfio Grill, which was a Greek restaurant. And they consider me ikoyenya, so like family. And I even worked at this Japanese restaurant called Miss Teriyaki. And having the restaurant experience really got me, not just being an extrovert myself, but it really got me out there. And my dad appreciated that. But my mom, the reason why she supports me more is because she's a family nurse practitioner in pain management. And she supports me more because she was in a commercial in the 90s, like said for the Lays. And this was like before GPS, and her dad drove her down in Atlanta. And despite that I may have to go there someday, I'll make sure that I am safe, or I'll try my best just to do like honor my mom's memory. But honestly, yeah, that's just how we relate. Like that she would have been do that, but she gets to meet people like, and she helps me out making more connections.
So do you have any advice before we leave this podcast? And I really enjoyed this. Do you have any advice for young people that may want to go into the arts?
Advice? Yes. I would say be yourself. And if you're pious like I am, or even not, just you need to really contemplate or pray to God what you want to do with your life, because it really is one of the most important decisions by discovering who your future spouse is, like, and like, because spouse, from my perspective, so like future wife, future career, and you're right, the career may evolve, but my advice is just you need to really pray God, or you just need to like really contemplate, write this down, talk to academic coaches, and figure out what you're passionate about. Because my dad taught me this 3 things, because I actually took a sales course, believe it or not, by Action Coach, by Brad Sugars, a man at my church named Michael Connor. He helped me because doing the restaurant, as well. It's like here's the formula. You want to make sure it has high demand. You want to make sure it has good money. And most of all, you want to make sure you're passionate about it. Because I'm telling you, like, believe it or not, to further elaborate, I took an anatomy course, not just in high school, but at the North Georgia Technical College in Clarksville. And it was just monotonous. Like my brain couldn't connect with this so much constructive memorization of like all these bones, like the nasal bone, the deltoid muscle. But I appreciate it because I feel like it was God telling me, this is what your mom does for a living. And she actually has back pain, so she's able to empathize with her patients. But, to answer question more, it's like you want to make sure who you're connecting with. Because I've learned this in college. You can get a degree all day long, and I'm sure you know that.
Yes.
But if you don't have connections and you don't learn how to talk with people, you don't want to dominate like I tend to do. But you want to make sure you can connection with people. It's important.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
Well, I tell you, that's some great advice for our young people and even older people like myself to take, And I've said this many times, you want to be passionate about it. And I've had previous guests that say that you want to make sure that there's a demand for it and it makes comfortable money for you and your family. And so I think the advice you're giving today is great. Well, Eliza, we have to go, but thank you so much for coming on. So I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Mr. Rivers. And thank y'all for everyone listening to me. One last thing I'll say is be passionate, figure out who you are, and you'll discover your career. And I believe you'll find your future spouse, and just believe in yourself. Like Rocky says, Balboa, played by Sylvester Stallone, he says, you remember, it ain't how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
I love it. We can go on that one. But thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, on coming on my show. Again, we're going to see you again next week on the Career Education Learning Center podcast, where we make your career dreams a reality. God bless.